This is Meghan Markle's sickest stunt yet. This weekend, she decided to invoke the memory of dead Princess Diana in a deliberate attempt to terrorize her long-suffering husband, Prince Harry.
Again, I have to be careful what I say, but
This is gross and grim and deranged on every level.
Paris was supposed to give Meghan Markle a shining comeback, but according to insiders, it gave Prince Harry one of his darkest public breaking points yet. Sources claim Harry's mood changed the second he saw the video Meghan posted from a luxury car near the tunnel where Princess Diana died. There was no calm, royal face, no polished silence, no quiet escape behind palace walls, just a wave of anger that people around him could reportedly feel instantly. For Harry, that tunnel is not a symbol for headlines. It is not a dramatic location. It is tied to the night that shaped his entire life. So, when Meghan appeared relaxed in the back seat, feet up, rolling near that painful place with a filtered social media clip, the reaction was brutal. To millions watching online, it looked tone-deaf. To Harry, insiders say it felt personal. He had stayed quiet through years of public drama, criticism, interviews, and royal fallout. But this time, sources close to the couple claim he confronted Meghan directly and did not soften his words. According to one insider, Harry called the clip cruel attention-seeking and a betrayal of everything Diana stood for. That kind of statement cuts deep. After the Balenciaga show, their team was reportedly left stunned. Harry allegedly accused her of turning tragedy into a prop and using his mother's death as another headline to chase relevance. In the middle of Paris luxury, designer lights, and camera flashes, those words landed like ice. But that was only the start.
And she thinks that's a win, Brittany? No, we see you, Meghan. We see you, and now the world sees you.
This is her in the car videoing herself with her legs up as she went past the tunnel in which Diana Spencer was so tragically killed in Paris.
Behind the doors of a 5-star suite, what began as a private disagreement reportedly grew louder and sharper. People close to them allegedly could not ignore the tension anymore. And now the question is hanging over everything. Did Meghan cross the line between ambition and disrespect? Do you think Meghan knew exactly what people would say after filming near Diana's crash site? Or was this just a terrible coincidence? Drop your thoughts below. The whole Paris trip was meant to look flawless. Flashbulbs, couture, front row seats, famous faces, and a carefully managed return after months of silence. Meghan had the perfect stage. Fashion Week gave her celebrity, style, and control. Cameras were locked on every angle, and every move looked planned. For Harry, it may have seemed harmless at first. Another event, another red carpet, another public appearance to survive. From the outside, Meghan looked polished and confident, smiling under the Paris glow while photographers framed her as radiant, redefined, and reborn. Every step felt intentional. Every glance looked rehearsed. It was the Meghan brand in full motion, moving like a comeback campaign. Then came the video. It was only a few seconds, a casual clip, almost like any influencer post. Meghan in the car, feet raised, phone nearby, passing near the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the place forever linked to Diana's final night. Within hours, outrage exploded across social media. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds.
And she did this all after teaming up with the dodgy child scandal fashion brand Balenciaga during a bizarre trip to Paris.
If I know that this is a place that my husband hates because it's where he lost his mom, I'm not going to go there.
People called it disrespectful, staged, cold, and unforgivable. For those who remember Diana's final hours, it felt like grief being placed inside a content reel. That is why the backlash hit so hard. But what made critics even angrier was the silence that followed. No apology, no clear explanation, no public denial. Just Meghan appearing again at the next fashion event with the same calm smile and controlled energy. To supporters, maybe that silence looked like strength, but to critics, it looked like a calculated move. Those close to the couple claim the silence was not peace. They say it was strategy. Behind the designer shades and practiced poses, Meghan was allegedly not ignoring the outrage. She was letting it grow, because the louder the backlash became, the more cameras turned back toward her. That is where the story started to shift. What first looked like a careless mistake began to look, to some royal watchers, like something more planned. At first, the clip seemed simple. A luxury car, a Fashion Week moment, a short social media post. But online observers quickly began studying every frame. They looked at the route, the timing, the angle, and the location. Some claimed the car's path was not random at all and looked too close to the route tied to Diana's final night. Others said people were overthinking it, and Paris traffic can easily make any route look suspicious. But the debate only grew louder. To critics, it was not coincidence. It was choreography. Every second of the clip seemed designed to spark conversation.
Especially when he's on the BBC saying that it's not safe enough for my family in the UK, but it's safe enough for Meghan to be alone in Paris, literally engaging with the paparazzi you say killed your mother.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up.
Well, how about having some thought towards your husband's feelings when you're in the same city his mom died in, running around having a joyride in Paris near where she lost her life?
And that conversation quickly became outrage. Fashion commentators called it symbolic. Royal reporters called it disturbing. Social media called it reckless. But the real shock was Harry's reaction. For years, Harry defended Meghan through scandal after scandal. He stood by her during family tension, media attacks, public criticism, and non-stop royal drama. But this time, witnesses claim he did not stand beside her the same way. He allegedly walked out of the event and refused to travel with her afterward. Inside, sources claim the argument that followed was not only about the tunnel, it was about intent. Harry allegedly accused her of using his mother's memory as currency. Meghan allegedly fired back, saying, "It's just a location, not your property." If that sentence was truly said, it may have changed everything, because for Harry, this was never just a location. It was trauma, it was childhood pain, it was the memory of Diana dragged back into a public spotlight. Then came another controversial move. Hours later, Meghan appeared front row at the Balenciaga show, a brand still followed by heavy backlash over past advertising imagery involving children. For someone who has often shaped her image around compassion, motherhood, and protecting young people, critics saw that appearance as a serious contradiction. When questioned, her reported defense was that she was supporting a friend.
I think something is funny. It clearly isn't. Turns to Marcus Anderson, her gay BFF who's behind all of this, wanting him to join in. He's like, no way, just turn around, behave. I've got this gig for you, you stupid woman, just behave. And then she's furious.
But critics saw it differently. To them, it was not loyalty. It was selective morality wrapped in designer fashion. One insider put it bluntly, saying, "Every time her relevance fades, she reaches for something dark." That claim is harsh, but it shows how intense the conversation around Meghan has become. The public thought they had already seen attention-seeking before, but this Paris moment pushed the debate into a different lane, because critics were no longer treating it like one bad decision. They were calling it part of a pattern. If Harry really called her out behind the scenes, do you side with him for finally snapping, or do you think he overreacted? Let me know in the comments. When the noise faded, a bigger question began to surface. Every controversy, every headline, every public storm, some insiders now claim they were not isolated events. They looked connected. From Netflix deals to red carpet appearances, every burst of outrage seemed to land close to a new announcement, a new feature, or a new photo opportunity. Insiders reportedly began calling it the cycle: shock, silence, and spotlight. And at the centre of that cycle, critics say, is Meghan. Those close to the Sussex circle claim Harry has finally started to see the pattern too. They say he now understands that every storm appears to benefit one person more than the other. His trauma becomes her talking point. His mother's memory becomes part of her image. His silence becomes her protection. Behind the polished smile, the alleged strategy is simple. Turn criticism into buzz, turn backlash into attention, and turn outrage into another reason for cameras to keep rolling. Even the Balenciaga appearance, critics argue, was not random. The brand still brings strong reactions, and strong reactions bring visibility. Visibility keeps Meghan's name in circulation. For Meghan, the formula may work. For Harry, insiders say it hurts him badly. Friends reportedly describe Harry as trapped in a cycle he cannot win. If he defends her, people say he is blind. If he challenges her, he becomes part of the drama. If he stays silent, the story moves without him. And if he speaks, the headlines get louder. This is no longer just about a video or a fashion show. It is about control. Emotional control, public control, image control, and narrative control. A strategy built on provocation, wrapped in compassion, and sold as empowerment. And maybe that is the coldest part. What once looked like a love story between rebellion and royalty now looks, to some observers, like something much darker. A brand built on controversy, a marriage surrounded by cameras, a public life powered by pain, timing, and silence. Coincidence or calculation? That is the question echoing through every room they enter, and it is the question Harry can no longer ignore. Is Meghan using controversy to stay relevant, or is she simply caught in media exaggeration? What do you think, guys? Above Paris, the night sky glowed gold, but around Harry and Meghan, the energy had turned ice cold, and for the first time, Meghan was not being photographed like a star. She was being studied like a case. Every blink, every small movement, every quick glance toward Harry suddenly mattered. Cameras caught the tiny details people usually miss. Meghan's smile slipping for half a second as Harry walked past her without saying a word. His jaw tightening when her hand reached toward his arm, and the way he simply did not take it. There was no shouting, no public meltdown, no dramatic scene in front of the cameras, just distance. And sometimes silence speaks louder than rage ever could. Online, the tension became its own storm. Clips were slowed down, replayed, zoomed in, and pulled apart, frame by frame. Body language experts started breaking down micro-expressions like they were decoding a crime scene. A half smirk became a sign of arrogance. A blink became a sign of guilt. A stiff shoulder became proof that something was seriously wrong. Every edit made the scene look colder. Every replay made Meghan seem more distant from the soft, polished woman she once tried to present to the world. Then came the crowd footage. Harry stepped out alone as flashbulbs exploded around him like gunfire. He did not wait. He did not smile. He did not perform for the cameras. He just walked through the noise like a man being followed by a ghost the world refuses to let rest. Days later, Meghan appeared at a gala dinner looking radiant and composed, acting as if nothing had happened. But behind that smooth smile, her eyes kept scanning the room. She was not searching for approval anymore. She looked like she was measuring control. That is the strange thing about their story. The more perfect the image becomes, the more broken the reality feels. Behind every camera flash, there is a shadow. And lately, that shadow looks a lot like Harry. No soft reunion, no public healing, no believable warmth. Just two people orbiting the same scandal while pretending the whole thing still looks like love. And as one insider whispered, "It's not a marriage anymore. It's a performance." Days turned into headlines, and headlines turned into distance. The clip was no longer trending, but the damage stayed behind. Harry disappeared from the spotlight, choosing silence over another public fight. Meghan did the opposite. She doubled down. Instead of facing the backlash head-on, she leaned harder into visibility. Charity luncheons, carefully framed photos, stylists buzzing around her, interviews filtered through friendly outlets. The message was clear. She was not retreating. She was taking back the storyline. For Meghan, control was not about truth anymore. It was about narrative. Behind palace walls, PR filters, and carefully placed leaks, advisors reportedly whispered about containment and restructuring optics. But this time, even the most loyal staffers could not cover the fracture. Harry stopped showing up in sync. No easy joint appearances. No rehearsed smiles. No couple moments that felt natural. Sources said his silence was strategic. Others said it was survival. And yet Meghan's side reportedly spun a very different story. Anonymous whispers painted her as misunderstood, misquoted, and unfairly judged. It was the oldest move in the celebrity playbook. Turn victimhood into visibility. For weeks, the tabloids became her mirror, and every reflection looked more polished than the last. Meanwhile, Harry was seen alone at quiet dinners, in unguarded moments, looking heavier than before. Not raging anymore, just drained. Insiders described him as a man slowly realizing that every apology he gives becomes another headline she can own. Then came whispers of a new project, a rebranding push quietly pitched to studios. The theme was familiar: resilience, motherhood, misunderstood women, and rising above public judgment. And just like that, the cycle started again. New sympathy, new spotlight, new silence from Harry. This was not recovery. It was repetition by design. The scandal did not end. It simply changed shape. Because in their world, silence is not always surrender. Sometimes silence is staging, and sometimes the quiet after the storm is not peace at all. It is the sound of someone planning the next move. Every royal story begins with legacy, but this one refuses to end there. For Harry, legacy was never just about crowns, gold, or grand palaces. It was about ghosts. His mother's face on every front page. Her name whispered in every interview. Her tragedy replayed again and again, like the world never learned how to stop. Now that same legacy has become a battlefield between grief and spectacle. In private moments, friends say Harry still speaks about Diana not as a symbol, but as a wound. Not just the people's princess, but as a woman who wanted peace and never truly found it. That is why every public reference to her name cuts differently for him. And yet, every time Meghan wears Diana's jewellery, references her struggles, or places herself close to Diana's memory, critics say the wound is torn open again, televised, hashtagged, and monetised. Observers close to royal circles claim what began as admiration now looks more like imitation. To them, it is no longer just about honouring the past. It is about controlling the story of the past. And that is what reportedly breaks Harry down. Because the world still sees him as Diana's son, not the man he is trying to become. Every headline drags him backward. Every scandal reminds him that he is still trapped inside a story written long before he had the power to edit it. Meanwhile, Meghan appears untouched, still turning every controversy into a statement, still speaking about empowerment while standing in the shadow of another woman's legacy. It does not look like rebellion anymore. It looks like reinvention on repeat. But every performance leaves a mark, not always on Meghan's image, but on the history she keeps borrowing from. And that is the cruel irony. The same legacy that helped make them famous may now be the very thing that destroys them, because when you build a brand on borrowed pain, the echo always comes back louder, and this time, that echo sounds a lot like Diana. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was not. But one thing feels clear now. Nothing around this couple ever feels simple anymore. For years, the world saw a fairy tale. A prince who escaped the palace, a woman who promised freedom, a love story built on rebellion, pain, and starting over. But now, all that remains is noise. Two people surrounded by flashbulbs, trapped inside a story they cannot rewrite. Harry looks at the past and sees loss. Meghan looks at that same story and sees opportunity. And somewhere between those two visions, love seems to have quietly disappeared. The Diana Tunnel moment was not just a lapse in judgment. To many critics, it became the perfect mirror of their reality. Tragedy turned into optics. Grief turned into content. Pain turned into another reason for cameras to roll. It showed the world what they may have become. One person chasing peace, the other chasing the spotlight that keeps the chaos alive. And still, the question lingers in the silence between them. When everything you touch becomes a headline, how do you tell the truth from the performance? Maybe that is why Harry finally snapped, because behind every lens, every exclusive, every whisper, he sees the one thing he cannot protect anymore, the memory of his mother being used like currency in the empire of publicity. So maybe the world does not need another photo, another statement, another carefully worded apology. Maybe it needs honesty, something rarer than fame and far more dangerous to lose. If you want to see how deep this pattern of control, chaos, and public performance really goes, watch our previous investigation where we break down Prince Harry and Meghan's public fight. Like, comment, and subscribe for more royal drama, shocking updates, and stories the headlines only hint at. You're watching Star Spotlight, where the truth hides between the headlines.